Have you got your bag and everything? And have you got your lunch? Bye, Madeline. Hi, I'm Irene. There are about 10,000 schools in Australia. They come in all shapes and sizes. But you can bet they've all got one thing in common: a bunch of hungry kids come lunchtime. Many schools have either their own school canteen or are supplied by a canteen at a nearby school. And who's the backbone of the school canteen? That's right, people like you and me. The volunteers and canteen staff who prepare the lunches and serve tens of thousands of kids each day. Now that's quite a responsibility. And for that reason, the Australian government has introduced new laws called food safety standards. These laws cover the safe handling of food, including school canteen food. These standards apply to every school canteen in Australia, from the biggest city high schools to the smallest country primary schools. The standards are nothing to get stressed about. They're straightforward, simple to follow, and just good common sense. We're a fairly big operation here, but safe food handling practices can be carried out in any canteen, regardless of its size or its age. You can even carry them out at home. Good morning, Irene. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
These are two of my regular volunteers. This is Della. Hi. And James.
G'day.
They've gone through the training.
And survived.
And together, we're going to take you step by step through the main points of the standards. Just for starters, I'm going to show you how to make sure that the food coming into your canteen is in top-notch condition.
There you go.
Thanks, James. I'll take you through the safe way to serve, display and transport food.
I'll be giving you the lowdown on hygiene, or how to beat the bugs. This will include the important topic of temperature control. Keeping certain foods cold enough or hot enough, and why we shouldn't let food hang about in the temperature danger zone.
So, who should be interested in the National Food Safety Standards? Well, everyone who either runs or works in a school canteen. From the school principal to the president of the parent body to volunteers and staff. Under the standards, food business operators must ensure that staff have the skills and knowledge to safely carry out their food handling activities. This video and a simple, easy to follow handbook have been put together to help out. Okay, we've got a busy day ahead, so let's get started.
Now, some of you may be wondering, do we even need the standards? Well, the standards are there because things can and do go wrong with food. These are food poisoning bacteria. They may be small, but they can cause big problems, sometimes resulting in serious illness or even death, and young kids are especially at risk. But that's only one thing that can go wrong with food. When something gets into food that shouldn't be there, we say the food has been contaminated. There are three main types of contamination. Physical contamination. This includes things like insects, dirt, hair, bits of metal, glass or plastic, and even chipped nail polish. Chemical contamination is about things like insect spray and cleaning chemicals getting into food. Finally, microbiological contamination, which is when bacteria from raw meats, vegetables and ourselves get into food. That's what these standards are really about, preventing food contamination. And it's not that hard. Protect food from physical contamination. Wear protective clothing, wash your hands, keep insects out of the kitchen and keep food covered. Simple. To protect food from chemical contamination, store chemicals well away from food, follow instructions carefully, wash your hands and keep food covered. Easy. To protect food from microbiological contamination, Okay, this is a bit trickier, but washing your hands and keeping food covered helps. Now, we can't actually see the harmful bacteria, but we do know a lot about them. We know that bacteria are everywhere. We know how they spread, how they multiply, and how to control them. More about bacteria later, but first, we'd better take care of this delivery.
I've got it, James. Food safety in your canteen starts right from the moment the food arrives. Morning, Glenys, how are you?
Good morning.
Looks like it's going to be a hot one. When receiving food from a supplier, make sure that it's properly labelled with an Australian address so that it can be traced back if the food is recalled. Also check the delivery to make sure it matches up with what's on the invoice before you accept it. And check the condition the goods arrive in. You don't want damaged or substandard food in the canteen. The sorts of things you should reject are frozen food that's not hard, cold food that's getting warm, broken or damaged packaging, and dented or rusted tins. Thanks, Glenys.
Thanks a lot.
That's all fine. Keep a record of any foods you've rejected by noting the rejects on a delivery record form. This will show you if any supplier consistently delivers substandard goods. There's a template of the delivery record form in the handbook. Food which is unsafe in any way or food that has to be returned must be separated and clearly marked. Now that you've got the food in, you need to store it properly. Raw meats and vegetables should be stored well away from ready-to-eat foods such as ham and salads. You don't want bacteria from raw meats and unwashed vegetables contaminating other foods. But there's more to storing food correctly, isn't there, James?
Too right. Now, most bacteria aren't a problem unless their numbers get really large. That is, they multiply. And to do that, they need enough time, the right temperature and food, and moisture. Remember that. Time, temperature, food and moisture. Foods that have both protein and moisture, like meats, chicken, gravies, dairy foods and seafood, are an ideal breeding ground for bacteria. That's why we call these potentially hazardous foods. And how we store them is especially important. Keep frozen food frozen, keep cold food at or below 5 degrees Celsius and hot food at or above 60 degrees Celsius. It's when food doesn't stay hot enough or cold enough that it falls into the temperature danger zone, the zone that bacteria love to multiply in. The aim is to keep food out of the danger zone during transport, storage and display. Temperature is a key part of keeping food safe, so it's important to keep an eye on the temperature of fridges, freezers and food warmers, as well as the temperature of the food itself. To check the temperature of the fridge or cool room, keep a container of water inside the fridge and take the temperature of the water inside the container. Can't get simpler than that. Actually, it can. To check the freezer temperature, just do this to make sure it's frozen solid. Or you could put a thermometer between two packages. You don't need a piece of packages to do this. Keep a record of your fridge and freezer's temperature. Signs of warming could mean your equipment is failing, and you'll need to do something about it sooner rather than later. To check the temperature of a potentially hazardous food, you'll definitely need one of these, a probe thermometer. First, wash the probe with warm soapy water. Then sanitise it with an alcohol swab, or by putting it in boiling water for a minute. Allow the probe to air dry or dry it with a paper towel. Not on your apron or with a tea towel. Insert the probe and wait for the temperature on the thermometer to settle. Note the temperature. Remember, hot food should be kept above 60 degrees Celsius. Repeat the process of washing, sanitising and drying the probe before going on to other food items. Once again, you may want to record the temperature so you can see how well your equipment is holding up. Of course, the food can't stay in the fridge or warmer forever, so how do you survive that temperature danger zone?
Thanks, James. When preparing, displaying, serving or transporting food, it's important to control the time it spends in the temperature danger zone. Remember, this is the zone that bacteria love to multiply in. First off, keep things in the freezer, fridge or warmer until they're needed. When making sandwiches, only take out or cut up what will be used. If you need extra, defrost it quickly in the microwave. This keeps the ingredients safe and it means you don't waste food. It's been said before, but it's worth saying again. Keep food covered and wash your hands. With bulk ingredients, take off what you think you'll need the next day. Place it in another container and put it in the fridge to safely defrost overnight. The rest goes back in the freezer. So how long is too long in the temperature danger zone? Well, there's something called the 4-hour, 2-hour guide that can help. And it goes something like this. If the food has been in the danger zone for less than 2 hours, use immediately or refrigerate it. If it's been in the danger zone between 2 and 4 hours, use it straight away. Don't put it back in the fridge. And if it's been in the danger zone for longer than 4 hours, throw it out. But to use the guide, you need to know the total time the potentially hazardous food has spent in the temperature danger zone. That is, you need to know the history of the food. For example, this pre-packaged chicken meat came from a reputable supplier, so we know it was fine when it was delivered. Okay, let's see how the 4-hour, 2-hour guide works in practice using the humble chook sandwich. The chicken meat came out of the fridge at around 10 a.m. No hanging around on the bench. Following the guide, the sandwiches must be thrown out in less than 4 hours' time, by 2 p.m. Let's see how we go. When preparing food, use different boards for raw meats and salads. This will prevent bacteria from the raw meats contaminating the salads. Also, use tongs and sandwich holders to minimise contact with the food. At 10:30, the sandwiches are finished and ready to go into the fridge, along with the unused ingredients. 30 minutes total in the danger zone. 12 p.m, the lunches come out of the fridge and are sorted. Watch out for old habits like opening bags by blowing or putting your hands right inside. This may put bacteria into the bags. Here's a better way to do it. Now, what if the food has to do a bit of travelling, like to another school? How's this for a great idea? Pack the lunches into these foam boxes or cooler bags, and they're good for hot or cold. 12:15, they're in the car and on their way. 12:30, they arrive at the school right on the lunch bell. Total time in the danger zone, 30 minutes plus 30 minutes, 60 minutes only. Not even close to 4 hours. Back here, the lunches are taken out of the coolers or warmers a few minutes before going to the classroom or the staff room. Remember, you can only apply the 4-hour, 2-hour guide if you know the history of the food. If in doubt, keep it in the fridge. Thanks, Sandy. That's it for cold food. What about hot food?